Hi, welcome back. So, I normally would be talking to you about the history of comic books, right? And I'll get back to that. There is this new feature that's for YouTube channel creators that may be new or maybe just new to me. It's called Inspiration, and it's where this AI feature gives you suggestions for what you can make videos on. And of course, AI, as they call it these days, is really just a computer program that randomly throws things together without any intelligent understanding of context. So a lot of the suggestions that I saw were really stupid. Like it wanted me to talk about uh, the the Joe Palooka Dickie Deer crossover. You know, the crossover that never ever happened. And I'm not going to do that on this channel. I'm not here to make up comic book stories for you. What I want to tell you is the true history of comics. Now, that's not to say that I don't make up stuff every once in a while. I will sometimes make up what I think are educated guesses as to the reasons why some things happened, and then try to back that up with the evidence from the comic books. But that's different than just making up comic book stories. That's not going to happen. But one of the suggestions that I saw was to talk about comic book covers, and doggone it, that actually is a good idea. So thanks, I guess today we're going to talk about comic book covers. So I did pick out 10 comic book covers from 1935 to 1937 that I think were the best comic book covers of that time. Uh, no surprise, perhaps 1935, no favorites for me. It's still an early period. The comic book covers are very crude, and uh, New Fun Comics is doing that weird thing where they were using the cover to give you an extra page of comic strip material, which is a holdover from the original The Funnies in the early 1930s. And I don't think it works. I don't have any examples of that I'm going to show you today. But the first thing that I want to show you is King Comics #1. That's going to be my first choice. So I'm a big fan of the early comic book covers that take a whole bunch of characters that you not normally ever see together, because they're from different comic strips, and you put them all together on the cover, and it's fun. It makes it feel like you're going to see a crossover inside the comic book that never happens. But, you know, for the cover at least, it's a fun, self contained universe where all those characters meet and mingle. And there's a lot of examples of that I could have chose from, but the King Comics #1 stands out for me because of the gorilla. Uh, it's very violent, obviously. Popeye is punching a gorilla for no real reason that we know of. But I think the gorilla's reaction, like his head doesn't go flying back, the gorilla just looks confused, like, why is Popeye hitting me? And I think that is what puts this one over the top to be my first #1 pick. Another favorite of mine, moving a little bit further ahead now, to Comics Magazine, and this is Funny Pages #5. Now, maybe the reason is kind of obvious. She's very pretty, but you're going to see several examples from Comics Magazine slash Ultim going forward because they were pretty good about putting together covers in a way that the other companies would have to learn from. They knew to take elements that were going to be eye catching and made them the centerpiece. So there's that. But now we're going to jump to Eastern Color Printing and Famous Funnies. And we have to get all the way to number 27 before I see a favorite. And I'm not a fan of violence or guns. So the fact that this G-Man is pointing a gun at me doesn't make me happy. But I think it's a really, really good design that this is an element that's being observed by the other characters in the comic book, and they're all very excited about it. And if they're excited to see this new feature in the comic book, then why aren't you? So I think that's really clever marketing, and that's why this is my #3 pick. Now we're going to talk again about Comics Magazine and Funny Picture Stories #1. I'm not a huge fan of George Brenner or The Clock, but doggone it, this is a really, really good cover. It is one of those moment in time images that really captures a lot of dramatic tension. The clock is captured. There's bad guys standing all around him. He seems powerless in the face of being patted down. I guess the guy behind him is patting him down. Um, Anyways, he spoilers, he gets out of it, but we don't know that until we open up and read what happens inside. And yes, this is actually an example of a cover that's true to the story inside, which is refreshing because a lot of these covers in the Golden Age are totally made up. It didn't happen right away, but eventually comic book companies realized that around holidays it would be a good idea if they had holiday themed covers. And right around the time that Famous Funnies #29 came out, a lot of the companies realized, oh, it's Christmas time. Let's all do Christmas covers. So there was a lot to choose from here, but this is my favorite. A lot of the early Christmas themed covers are kind of weirdly violent. Like there's one of Santa coming down the chimney and there's a bear trap in the fireplace. Like, oh, that's funny. Santa's gonna have his legs ripped off. Haha. But this is a really charming one where Santa's checking to see if this boy, who I'm guessing is one of the characters from a comic strip, but I don't recognize him, is laying in bed, and Napoleon the dog is underneath the bed. And it's cute, it's fun, it's charming, and it definitely would make me feel good about Christmas instead of the bear trap thing. Back to Comics Magazine. Funny Picture Stories #4. I have reused this artwork myself in some of my publishing. I really like the dramatic composition of this cover. I like the fact that there's so much diagonal action in it, that the tiger is like half concealed off panel, so you don't know really how big this tiger is. Maybe he's enormous, and this is just the tip of him, like the tip of an iceberg attacking a ship. That's kind of an out there example. But I also like the fact that the wording on the screen is also at a diagonal and fills up that empty space that would have just been plain blue otherwise. And I think that that was really cleverly done, and I heartily approve. Even though, obviously, he's thinking about stabbing the tiger, it hasn't happened, and hopefully he changes his mind and they become best friends. Star Ranger is a strip that, or a comic book that I'm not a fan of. This is around the time when Ultim takes over, and Star Ranger is not a good comic book. It's a great title. It would be great for a science fiction title like The Star Rangers, but that's not what we get. It's just cowboy stuff. And there are a lot of cowboy covers that come out around this time, but this is a really good one. The horse rearing up and the cowboy with his lasso is a very dramatic image. It's a very powerful image, and I think very iconic in a way that some of the others don't stand out. Now we're going to get back to National Allied, which becomes DC Comics, when we finally get to Detective Comics #3. And this is a spoiler. We haven't talked about Detective Comics yet on our channel, but we're going to get to it soon. And that does debut here in 1937. And since I'm including 1937 in my collection of covers, then we have to talk about this one too. This is fun. It's by Craig Flessel, and Craig Flessel becomes like the de facto National Allied cover artist around this time, and I think it's a big step forward from the Vin Sullivan art that we had before that was very cartoony and didn't really sell me. Craig Flessel creates very dramatic images like this here. This really reminds me of, I had to pause and think about that for a moment there. The Band on the Run cover is what this reminds me of, and I'm embarrassed that I blanked on that for a moment because I love Band on the Run and Wings in general. Anyway, so that's what makes this one a favorite of mine. It's so reminiscent of that. And then the remaining two favorite covers of mine are also going to be Craig Flessel pieces. and they're going to be from New Adventure Comics, which is what New Comics is going to become. Again, spoilers for upcoming episodes. New Adventure number 15 is a fun boys' adventure cover. They're sitting on a raft and it's in the middle of this turbulent water. It's a very calm skyscape with a very turbulent waterscape underneath it. So there's like two elements here that are in conflict with each other, and the boys are caught in the middle. And I think that makes it a really strong composition. And then lastly, New Adventure number 17. And this gets high marks for me because the bear is so well drawn. There was just some issue with comic book artists getting up to this point had a terrible time drawing realistic animals, right? We were lucky to get a tiger that good on Funny Picture Stories number 4, but you'll remember what the gorilla looked like on King Comics number 1. That barely looked like a gorilla at all, and now we're getting very realistic bears, and I think that's a big step forward that we now have this. Now have realism in the artwork, and I think our little Tom Sawyer clone is going to get away. So that makes me happy. The bear makes me happy, and it's a fun little piece. And that rounds out my top 10. These are what I think the best covers up to the end of 1937. And I think we're going to see a lot more iconic covers coming up in 1938. I might even be able to do another one of these just for 1938 alone. But next time, we're going to definitely get back to the history of comic books, the inside of the comic books AI. Thank you very much. And thank you for watching, and bye for now. Hi, welcome back again. So I have to record a little bonus political content again, and I'm not going to remind you to resist Nazis. You're comic book fans. If you grew up with comic books, you know Nazis are the bad guys, so we don't have to keep going over that. But I did want to mention YouTube because YouTube ads are getting really bad and they're filled with a lot of disinformation. I'm very dissatisfied with this platform that, for better or worse, I came back to. So I want to make sure that you are blocking YouTube ads, or start doing that if you're not already. Or if you don't want to block the ads, at least skip over them as much as possible, because I don't want you seeing this really conspiratorial type disinformation stuff that I've been seeing. And it's just not right. YouTube, grow up, do what's right, and don't air stuff that you know is wrong, no matter how much money they're giving you. All right. That's it for now. Bye bye.